Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for the third and final part of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right, first question. Hey Jason, I recently hurt my right hip flexor and decided to stop squatting for a month. Can I maintain my leg muscle by riding a bike on a higher resistance? Thanks, coach. No. Why would you think you could maintain your leg muscle riding a bike? Now, will riding the bike help? But here's the question I would ask. If you can ride the bike at a higher resistance, then how is your hip flexor too damaged to squat? Do you need to reduce weight a little bit while it's healing? Yes. But you need to maintain your physical activity. Again, unless it's such a bad injury that you can't squat at all, in which case hopefully you're seeing a physical therapist and a medical doctor about it. But if you have a minor strain, you don't need to quit training. You need to train around it. You need to find a way to train around it correctly. That might mean reducing the weight. That might mean doing an exercise variation that you can get away with. In other words, see if you can front squat pain-free. See if you can box squat pain-free. If you're doing high bar versus low bar, switch. Maybe try a safety bar squat. You need to be doing some sort of squat, though, within the confines of what your hip can do. And what I'm going to say on this is, here's very much the point I want to make. If you can ride your bike at a higher resistance and you are not so injured that you can't squat, you're just going to have to reduce workload. You're going to have to basically deload or do an exercise variation, even if that variation's at a lighter weight, so that you don't detrain and lose muscle. But I can tell you right now, if you've developed any significant degree of leg mass and strength from squatting and you stop squatting for a month and you ride your bike, you are absolutely going to lose leg muscle. That is unavoidable. It is absolutely going to happen, and I don't know why you would think that you wouldn't. So you need to find a way to work around it. All right, next question. Coach, what in your opinion is better for an intermediate lifter in conjugate program? 2 times max effort plus dynamic effort, or 2 times max effort plus repeated effort? Conjugate, why would you ask me about conjugate? The only person who is qualified to answer questions about the conjugate method is Louis Simmons. You were posting on the wrong channel. Okay. What you sounds like you're talking about is concurrent periodization. The conjugate method is a variation of concurrent periodization. It is a specific program that uses concurrent periodization. Right? What I do isn't conjugate. I'm doing 4-day-a-week concurrent periodization. So you need to go ask Louis Simmons if you have a specific question about the conjugate method, and you probably need to buy his entire book. You need to buy his book and probably listen to a few hours of his lectures before you ask any questions. But that being said, are these same templates used in other forms of concurrent periodization by tons of coaches? Yes. Is this the sort of stuff I'm using again myself and I've used in the past? Yes. Here's what I'm going to say. It's going to depend upon your current goals. It's going to depend on your needs. Now, right now, what do you see me doing? You see me doing my max effort, and you see me doing the repetition method. So I personally am doing the latter, right? That's what you see me doing. Will I switch over to the dynamic eventually? Yes. Yes. And I think that for a lot of people, you see most coaches who I see program this, they have them do a lot more dynamic than repeat effort days. And then you fill in your other 2 days of the repeat effort. Is that what you're going to see me go to eventually? Yes. I think for an intermediate lifter, I think you need a good blend of both. And the reason you see me doing the repeat effort is I'm rebuilding some lost muscle in my lower body, right? And I need to make relatively quick gains, and so that's why I'm personally doing that, and that's why you see me doing it for myself. For an intermediate lifter, I would lean in the direction of the latter to a large extent, and maybe rotate through phases, because you don't have to be constant with this. And even the West Side guys with theirs, they're not constant with it. They rotate it through. They still do blocks or have times where they just come in and do the repeat effort or the repetition method instead of dynamic. So it really depends on where you're at in your training. It depends on how much size you need to gain also at this point. Now, is it to say that you can't gain tremendous size on the dynamic method or dynamic effort training? Oh, you can. In fact, I had a conversation in person because I was using actually concurrent training myself again at the time. When I went to a big expo, I went to Body Power in the UK. And I was actually doing this style of training then. People forget that, don't they? Like, oh yeah, you were going to an expo while you were doing concurrent periodization with speed days and everything. Yes, I did. I talked with Chris Lovato, and it was interesting, and he's a pretty good sized natty dude. He actually noted that when he was doing concurrent training with the 2 dynamic effort days, that he felt like he grew just as much as he did on a bodybuilding program. And he thought that was interesting. So here's what I'm going to say on that. Depending on how much base building you need to do, people who need more base building still built in, I'm going to lean in the direction of the repetition method, max effort and repetition method. For people who've got a good base built, like in my case, once I've rebuilt my legs a little more, I lean in the direction of the dynamic effort. So max effort and then 2 dynamic effort days. But it really is going to depend on where you're at. And, here's the other thing to remember. Even the guys who use this sort of training year round, you often see a mix, don't you? They tend to go through phases where they do dynamic effort, and then you see others where they do the repetition effort. They do both. Even though the tendency is to do more dynamic effort days, to do that far more often, there's still a place for both. And even then, usually what happens when you're doing max effort and dynamic effort, almost exclusively, you still tend to work in repetition days, don't you? Like you work them in on the back end for your accessory movements. That's usually still how it works, at least in my experience. And that's how I tend to do it, and that's how I'll probably be doing it coming forward myself, right? You'll see me do more of that. So, it really depends on what you're doing. I don't think there's a straightforward answer. There really isn't a straightforward answer to that. I think it depends on what your current needs are. All right, next question. Recently, I have experienced trouble falling asleep after working out. I can train only the evening. Can this be a sign of overtraining, or are there other factors causing this problem, stress, lifestyle, etc.? I don't know that it's overtraining. If it's overtraining, this isn't just going to be something that is going to be ongoing. Now, is it to say that overtraining can cause you to have trouble sleeping? Yes, absolutely. When you're bordering on the edge of overtraining syndrome, you will have trouble sleeping. You'll have insomnia. But if you are overtraining, there's going to be other factors. In other words, insomnia is only one of the symptoms. You're going to have elevated blood pressure. You're going to have elevated resting heart rate. You're going to be getting muscle cramping, and you're going to see a decline in performance. Like, that's all part of overtraining, right? If you're not experiencing those other symptoms, then your sleep problems are not overtraining related. But if you're seeing the others, then it possibly is. Now, your stress and your lifestyle contribute to overtraining too, don't they? If you're going through a really stressful time period, your maximum recoverable volume is going to go down. Coincidentally, what else are you going to see? You're also going to see other stress markers. You're going to see a lot of the signs that we see in overtraining. In fact, going through an extremely stressful time in your life can exhibit some of the symptoms of overtraining even for someone who doesn't lift. So maybe you do need to get that reeled in. So look at that. Now, if you're worried about stress, now if you're saying, okay, you put stress in there, right, you might need to get your stress in check. The stress and the overtraining can go hand in hand, can't they? You need to get your stress in check. You need to learn to unwind. The other big thing I point out, do you use pre-workouts? That's another reason I'm not a fan of pre-workouts. Pre-workouts can cause insomnia. They don't help you in any meaningful way. In other words, people don't gain muscle or strength who take pre-workouts. It's been studied. It doesn't help them at all. Just because you feel like you got a better workout doesn't mean that you actually improved. So if you're taking a pre-workout, there's your obvious answer. Stop. Quit. You don't need any stimulants in the evening, particularly not before you train. Right? You don't need them before you train. You need to cut that out. Start looking at your other lifestyle factors. Get your stress under control. Maybe use some sleep aids. You might want to consider something like melatonin. You need to make sure that you're going to bed in a cool, dark room. Make sure that you have no light. You need to quit looking at your phone at least 30 minutes before you go to bed. Maybe turn your phone off, put it on Do Not Disturb. Don't look at your computer screen 30 minutes before you go to bed. Don't expose yourself to light. Turn off any night lights. Maybe even get yourself a mask. I have a mask because, when I had an ex, she would be up making noise and stuff at night and turning lights on. I have a sleeping mask. All right, you might want to consider that if you can't completely get into a pitch black room. Get yourself a mask to cover your eyes. Learn to unwind better. Maybe consider sleep aids. Make sure the room is cool and dark where you sleep. That's what I would recommend, because you do need to be able to sleep. That not sleeping itself will contribute to overtraining. So it's a lot of factors to look at. All things that you need to consider. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.